if life was so easy, then why are so many people working at Walmart? Why are so many people working at flower shops on Highland? Why are so many people living lives of absolute quiet desperation, of jobs they hate? Just look around you when you're coming to school in the morning. People in the cars, they look happy about where they're going. And so they might know a little something about misery and suffering and how to avoid it. That's who you're competing against, not the forces that you can see, but the forces that you can't see. And most of us have no right to complain about the way that we turn out because we know we haven't done what we could have done. We know we're not what we could have been. That's probably the highest price that one pays for procrastination, is being aware at some level at 2 o'clock in the morning as you're laying there staring up at the ceiling that you're not what you could have been. That's the tragedy of it all. Like I said, you're going to pay a price for everything that you do, but you're also going to pay a price for everything that you don't do. The cool thing about paying the price for the things that you do is almost always immediate. You tell the truth, people get angry with you. You do the honest thing, people get angry with you. You pay the consequences right now. But paying the price for the things that you don't do, oftentimes those are the things that catch up to you later. If you lend someone $10 today at 100% interest and you pay them back tomorrow, you're paying them $20. If you lend someone $10 today at 100% interest and you don't catch up with them for the debt for 7 years, you owe millions. So that's the question. Do you want to pay the price now or do you want to pay the price later? You're going to pay the price. That's part of living. That's part of life. You can't get away from it. So at least figure out what you want to pay for. Figure out what you want to suffer for. You know, I want to start the gym, but are you though? Why? Like, why do you want to do it? And it isn't for most people. It's like, it's like college. It's not for most people. There are a lot of things in life that we almost say that we want to do them just because we feel like we're supposed to want to do them. And so, of course, we don't really rush to. I mean, do you procrastinate with the things that you love? If you love video games, do you get home and you procrastinate playing them? If you love dancing, do you procrastinate on your dancing? You don't procrastinate on the things that you love. We procrastinate on the things that we don't want to get to. So now, not only are we waiting to the last minute, but we're waiting to the last minute on things that we don't want to do anyway. So how good of a job can we possibly do? But at least we can be honest about it. Now, what's the price of procrastination? It's not just the stress. That's one thing. But it's something that's even more you won't really suffer from it until it hits you like at 2 in the morning on some idle Tuesday or something like that. You wake up to the bathroom, all of a sudden it smacks you in the face and you're like, I wonder what I could have been if I didn't procrastinate. Especially if you start something later, like let's say that if you start going to the gym right now, how long would it take you to get into shape? Most of you, a couple weeks at the most. If you waited until you were 30, how long would it take you to get into shape? A couple of months. If you waited until you were 50, how long would it take you to get into shape? Several months, a couple of years. How hard would it be to maintain being in shape right now? Not much. How much is it going to take to stay in shape when you're 50, 60, 70? A lot. And it's not just because of the changes in your body. It's also going to be because staying in shape would have helped you to keep a lot of diseases away. It would have helped you to, like my dad used to tell me, you gotta be careful, diabetes runs in our family. There's a reason that diabetes runs in my family, and that's because nobody in my family runs. But if you were to take care of yourself, then you wouldn't have those problems. And then, of course, you get a disease like that. There's a whole bunch of things that go along with that. Your eyesight starts to suck. You get cold limbs, you aren't as strong. A whole bunch of terrible things happen from there. And so what did my dad do? My dad waited until he had diabetes, and all of a sudden he was like, oh wow, now it's time to get into shape. I told you before, my dad worked at McDonald's his whole life. And so he would chalk it up, and he had type 2 diabetes, and he would say, look where I'm working, that's the food I'm around all the time. I can't eat anything else. And all of a sudden the doctor tells him, if you don't change the way that you're eating, you're gonna die. First you'll go blind, and then you'll die. How long did it take him to change his diet after that? Literally days. As soon as he went home, he started researching and found out what he could and couldn't eat. And then he discovered, oh, wow, this was, the food's not so bad. What you're eating is actually not bad. It's actually pretty good. You get used to it pretty quickly and you like it. And then, of course, it left him to wonder, what if I'd eaten like this my whole life? What kind of condition would I be in right now? What kind of shape would I be in right now? Bless you. And that's the tragedy of procrastination, is that if it occurs to you to think about it, you can start to consider what you possibly could have been. And I'm sure many of you know people like this, older people who look back on their lives and think about what they possibly could have been, or at least they brag about what they could have been. I don't know how many of you know people who, like, for example, I played baseball in college, and when people find that out, they like to tell me, oh, wow, yeah, I played semi-pro baseball, which semi-pro means nothing. That's like, semi-pro just means that you play on the weekends with some people and probably drink a lot of beer. So semi-pro is not professional. It's not even college baseball. But people like to brag about it. I played, and then they'll tell me, oh, I got drafted, or I could have gotten drafted. I hear you. Of course, a couple thousand people every year are drafted. You'd have been one of many thousand people. And then they'll tell me, but then whatever happened, happened. Oh, I hear you, man. Yeah, that's a tragedy. And you can see it. Because you go out to Las Palmas during baseball season, you can see the stands is full of dads who could have, or would have, or should have. And they're yelling at their kids because they want to live through them, even if the kid doesn't want to be there. Where I am now, you come across a lot of dads who swear up and down they could have been a world champion boxer. I was a Golden Glove champion, but then, okay. Or what it really is that we put off the things that would have made us better. We procrastinated. Or worse yet, we didn't heed the advice of people who knew better. Because we think we have it figured out. And that's something I've never understood that. I've never understood this mindset of, I've got things figured out. So-and-so just doesn't know what they're talking about. I don't know, man. Anybody who's older than me, I figure they're still alive. A lot of people aren't. They must know a little something about something. And if life was so easy, then why are so many people working at Walmart? Why are so many people working at flower shops on Highland? Why are so many people living lives of absolute quiet desperation, of jobs they hate? Just look around you when you're coming to school in the morning. Do the people in the cars, do they look happy about where they're going? And so they might know a little something about misery and suffering and how to avoid it. But those are folks who, of course, when they were walking to school, thought, nobody knows as much as I do. I've never understood that. And the things I've never surrounded myself with people. Even when I was in school, I always hear that, like, young people think they know everything. I don't get that. When I was in school, I didn't, and my friends didn't either. I always thought that was just like a stupid stereotype. But then you do come across people who are like that. And by the way, those are folks that it doesn't change. These are the same people that when they get to be 40 and 50 and 60, they think they have it all figured out. And those are the people who will say, I know everything, I've seen it all. If you think you've seen it all, then it's probably time to get into the box. Because you're not going to grow at all. You're not going to get any better. And then these will be the same people who will complain about how the only reason they didn't make it, or the only reason they're not successful, or whatever, is because of other people, things outside of their control. Oh, it's because of this, or that person doesn't like me, my boss just doesn't like me, okay. Always pointing the fingers outside because they don't recognize that virtue is in your power to do it. People will talk about, like, I just get so mad and I can't control myself. You've given yourself license to not control yourself then. You could control yourself. Call it what it is. I get so angry, I choose not to control myself. Okay. But then understand what that is and what that leads to. And then what virtue is virtue is to do good stuff, but virtue is more than just doing good. Virtue is being moral. Virtue is telling the truth, being honest, which are not always the same thing. It's establishing values and priorities and goals and moving forward through them regardless of what it costs you. Sticking to principles. Vice is going the other way. I'm going to do this other thing right now because it feels good to me, or I think it's going to benefit me right now. Telling the truth. Oh, even if it's going to cost me a lot? Yeah. Oh, I don't want to get in trouble. You're gonna suffer either way. Oh, but if I lie, I can get out of it. No way, dude. It's going to lead you down a different path, and your whole life is going to be jumping around trying to avoid the consequences of our actions. Listen, you're going to pay the price for everything that you do. But you're also going to pay the price for everything that you don't do. If you choose not to work hard, you're going to pay the price for it. Because, yeah, you think you get to relax, but the thing is that when you're not working hard right now, somebody else out there is working hard right now. No question about it. And the person that you're competing with very, 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 very rarely is the person sitting next to you in your English class. If you're sitting in your class and you're just like, fucking off with something that has nothing to do with getting better, and then the person next to you is, and you're thinking like, well, at least I have a higher grade than that person. Who cares? Do you have a higher grade than the person over at Eastlake? Who cares? Do you have a higher grade than the person over in New York? Who cares? Do you have a higher grade than the person over in India? Or better yet, have you learned more than the person who's in your same position over in China? Because that's who you're competing against. Not the forces that you can see, but the forces that you can't see. And most of us have no right to complain about the ways that we turn out because we know we haven't done what we could have done. We know we're not what we could have been. That's probably the highest price that one pays for procrastination, is being aware at some level at 2 o'clock in the morning as you're laying there staring up at the ceiling that you're not what you could have been. And that's the tragedy of it all, because, stop me if you've heard this before, but life is suffering. We don't get to choose not to suffer, but we can choose what we're going to suffer for. Are you going to suffer for becoming what you could have become, maximizing yourself? Or are you going to suffer because you didn't become what you could have become? Like I said, you're going to pay a price for everything that you do, but you're also going to pay a price for everything that you don't do. The cool thing about paying the price for the things that you do is almost always immediate. You tell the truth, people get angry with you. You do the honest thing, people get angry with you. You pay the consequences right now. But paying the price for the things that you don't do, oftentimes those are the things that catch up to you later. If you lend someone $10 today at 100% interest and you pay them back tomorrow, you're paying them $20. If you lend someone $10 today at 100% interest and you don't catch up with them for the debt for 7 years, you owe millions. So that's the question. Do you want to pay the price now or do you want to pay the price later? You're going to pay the price. That's part of living. That's part of life. You can't get away from it. So at least figure out what you want to pay for. Figure out what you want to suffer for. And I don't know that there's much that's more worth paying the price for than truth and virtue. Doing the absolute right thing. And you don't need to be told what the right thing is. For the most part, you already know what it is. If you're having to do a bunch of gymnastics to justify what you're doing, it's probably the wrong thing. If it's hard to just come out and say it and admit it, it's probably the right thing for a lot of people. But hopefully we get used to virtue and goodness so that it isn't so hard to say and do, but hopefully get used to it like going to the gym. Still hurts, but at least there's growth. I guess if you don't go to the gym, there's growth also, right? It's just in the belly. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Yeah, dude.
Why does the desire to be nothing outweigh being who you could have been?
Because, good question.